Hey there, I am back with another Free the Pip Friday, and today we're going to be looking at the rare deck that you guys chose. This is Keymaster Tarot Ultimate Edition. This one comes from Stockholm17 and is a follow-up to one of his most impressive decks ever, the House of the Rising Spade. This was from a couple years ago, back in 2018. It was on most people's deck of the year list, if not the deck of the year. It is a true masterpiece and one I recommend checking out if you haven't already. But this one really is a follow-up to that deck. It focuses on one of the characters from the House of the Rising Spade, the Keymaster, and the portal that he guards. The Ultimate Edition really takes this to 11 with this massive and impressive cover over the top. So you can see the box underneath here, but it's covered by this resin and hand-painted cover on top. It's plastic, but it's given the look of stone, and it is something else. There's so much detail on this. Now the entire cover is meant to look like an archway or like a front of a building, complete with that stone look. And then in the center is the large portal, the door in the back, and you can even see a little bit of wood texture on the door, complete with that spade emblem at the top. And the door is of course guarded by the Keymaster himself, sword in hand, perched in his robe right in the front. The details around are equally impressive. You have Keymaster Tarot in that nice deep 3D look at the top, House of the Rising Spade mentioned at the top as well, and then all kinds of little details. You have the 4 suits there. You have these cups that are carved in relief. Hopefully you can kind of see some of that depth and shadowing there. And then the 4 keys, very fitting for the Keymaster to have those at his side. Each one of the keys you'll see has one of the 4 suits at the top. So you have like hearts and diamonds over here, and then spades and clubs on the left. The stonework continues to the sides. You can see those individual stones and the texturing on them. You have the cracks in the side, just sort of lending some authenticity. And that's on both sides. And then up the top here, you'll see a Latin phrase that's kind of carved into the stone. It continues on both sides. On one side it says, Ingirum imus nocte, and continues on the other side, Et consumimuri igni. It's a Latin phrase, and it's actually a full palindrome. That means it can be read exactly the same forward and backwards. So the letters form a palindrome, and it's also a riddle. It translates to, we enter the circle at night and are consumed by the fire. What does that mean? Well, it's a riddle that refers to a moth. So moths at night will be drawn to the light, will enter the circle of light, and then are consumed by the fire as they kind of get too close. So kind of a cool riddle and palindrome, nice mysterious touch that's added to this mysterious cover. On the bottom, where you would typically see ad copy, this one just has some cobblestones, and then the Stockholm17 logo there, that S and then XVII for 17 intertwined in the middle. And then on the top, this patterned work, again with some of that hand-painted stone feel. And then it finishes up with this large seal that wraps around, kind of securing the box on the bottom to the case on the top. And they are hand numbered. You'll see I got number 201 out of the 550 deck edition. Those crossed keys at the top. And then it wraps down, and the bottom part here just sort of holds the box in place. The box as well, equally impressive. Very nice thick feel to it. And you can see those gold foiled details on it with the crossed keys and that gold detailing all the way around. Really nice feel too here. Hard to make out on camera, but this textured black box even has some light embossing to give you some extra details. But this is a preview of the back design of the cards that we'll look more at in a second. Now the box itself, in order to, so you don't have to actually cut that seal, you can kind of hinge it open like this. So you can lift that cover up if you're really careful and reveal the interior. See how nice and thick that resin case is. So really impressive. And then the inner box here is also really nicely done. It's lined in felt to kind of protect the cards, and then includes a nice ribbon so it allows you to sort of lift the package up and get it out nice and cleanly. So that is the exterior case. It is gigantic, it is impressive, it's ornate. Just can't say enough for how nice this is. So great job on that. But let's set that aside and let's get to what's inside. Now, first off, you may have noticed right on top is this little paper booklet. Now, this is sort of an instruction guide to tarot if you're not familiar, and tells you a little bit about the cards. It's a nice addition if you're not familiar with tarot, as I wasn't, but tells you a little bit about some of the symbolism behind some of the cards, how you could maybe interpret them if you use them in tarot. You know, each of them has a meaning. For example, here's the clubs. So like the 3 of clubs means a more complex plan or a way forward. So if you want to get into tarot, you can use this as a guide to help you with reading. It even includes some instructions in the back telling you how to actually perform a reading. So it has what they call spreads, basically laying the cards out on the table. And so as you lay them out, here's a really simple one where you just lay out 3 cards in order and then tells you how to interpret what you see. So whether you draw some of the major arcana or minor arcana, which cards you draw, how to interpret what you're looking at. And you can use all this to kind of guide you through a few different ways of doing a tarot reading. So nice addition. Like I said, especially if you're not familiar with tarot. If you know tarot, maybe you don't need this, but I found it to be great. Here is the deck. Now, first things first, you're going to notice it is full on gilded, and it is really nice all the way around. Love the gold mirror finish on it. I mean, you can see me there in the reflection in the camera. Really just fantastically done. Just lends that ornate feel to the deck, and we're going to get more of it as we go. Now, on the cards, we'll start with the back design. And here it is. It's done on a black cardstock and has tons of detailing in sort of this gray silver background, and then lots of gold foiling that just glimmers as you turn this card. Lots of details. The main element in the center is this circular element with ornate keys crossed in the center. It's a one-way back design, as you can see from the 4 different keys. So you have the spade, club, and then heart and diamond on the bottom here. So it is a one-way back design. Also making it a one-way back design are these 4 hands with the 4 letters of tarot. So it's T-A-R-O-T, but 2 T's. So you have the T, A, R, and the O represented with hand signals on the side. Little bits of extra little flourishes and details all the way through, and then finishes with a gold foil border all the way around the edge. Love the back design. Love how both ornate and yet clean and organized it is at the same time. So there's your back design. And then we get into the cards. Now, you may have noticed already that they are elongated cards. That's typical of tarot. They're not going to be the same size as a poker deck of cards. Gives you lots more room for artwork and detail on these. And I mentioned before that there's a lot more cards. So in addition to the regular, I'll call them regular deck that you would get, that's known as the minor arcana. You also get these. This is the major arcana. It's a 22 card series, and it features what you would call the trumps, or the main cards of the deck, the main story of the deck. So you have the minor arcana and the major arcana. We'll start out by looking at the major arcana. Now, they're going to be distinguished if you compare to one of the minor arcana cards. The minor cards are all just, have the black border on them, but the major arcana are all bordered with gold foil. And each one of these is going to feature a different character from the deck. They're all going to be numbered, starting with card 0, the Fool. And each one of them is going to have their own mysterious meaning. Now, I said before, you can kind of look in the book for some of the meanings in these. I'll touch on a couple of them. I'm not going to go into a full tarot reading just because I'm not a tarot expert by any means. But the tarot is, of course, a joker, somebody you wouldn't want to follow. Maybe lead you to question things about what it is that you're following in your life if you were to draw this card. But it features this beautiful full-scale image. Love the artwork on this. Love the colors that were used. It's just such a vibrant image. This one shows a jester with that sort of mysterious element over his shoulder, and then a dog running under his feet. Has the name of the card, the Fool, there at the bottom, just in case you forget. And just love the colors. And as you go through, each one of these is going to represent a different character with their own meaning if you want to use this in the story of tarot. So card number 1, so we looked at card 0. Here's card 1, the Magician, who can perform impossible feats. And love just the mysterious look. Now, the art on all of these is actually inspired by a couple of really famous tarot decks from the past. The Tarot de Marseille, hope I'm pronouncing that right, and the Rider-Waite-Smith, a couple of the most famous historic tarot decks. And so if you look at those decks, you'll see some similarities in the artwork, definitely inspired by some of those poses and artwork, but they are given a complete, both classic and modern at the same time spin to them. So here's the High Priestess, a symbol of knowledge. And so she has the book there in her hands. And then you go to the Empress, symbol of creativity. Beautiful white dress on this one. Love the bright look. And I love that sort of mysterious snake curled up at her feet there. And then here is, of course, with the Empress, then we have to have the Emperor as the pair. This one's kind of a fun look with him slumped down in his throne there. Here's the Hierophant, kind of a religious leader. So with the staff in hand, it's kind of a cool one. The Lovers, this doesn't necessarily, if you find this in a tarot reading, this doesn't necessarily symbolize romantic love so much as just love for a thing. And then here's the Chariot representing motion with the two beasts pulling it. I love the pairing of the black and white beasts at the front with the chariot rider in the back. And then here's Justice, of course, with those scales of justice that are still used as a symbol today. Until this in light, you'll see on some of these like sort of cryptic gold lines in there, just giving extra little mysterious elements as you turn it in the light. Love the artwork on these. The Hermit representing solitude. And then here's the Wheel of Fortune that spins and represents kind of cycles of time. That's kind of a cool one. Here's Strength. This is probably my favorite of the major Arcana decks. I think this is a great one. I love just sort of the asymmetrical feel to it with the woman here perched on the side and then the lion coming up to her and sniffing her hand. Just, I don't know, it's such a quiet strength to it, but very, very cool card. Here's the Hanged Man. This is an interesting one with a man hanging upside down. This one's, kind of an interesting time to talk. Another little interesting about tarot. If you draw the cards out, it actually means something different if you draw it right side up or if you draw it upside down and maybe the hangman's not hanging upside down anymore. But each card can have different meaning depending on how you draw it. Usually kind of an opposite meaning on the same topic. Here's Death. In tarot, this, while it does symbolize the end of life, it's not necessarily a negative thing. It can also just be the end of something that you actually want to end. So death, not necessarily quite as negative as it looks on this one. And then here's Temperance, the mixing of two things. This is another really cool one. I love the ethereal wings. It sort of mixes those cups in the center. Here's the Devil, obviously a bit of a personification of evil, and he's depicted there. And then the Tower, which symbolizes destruction or a disaster of some kind. Pretty literally depicted here with the lightning striking the tower, people falling off to the sides, and those sort of ghostly figures. And then into the Star. This is another just really beautiful one. The woman in the center pouring out those two cups. The day and night symbolized in the back. This is just an absolutely beautiful card. Here's the Moon with these two dogs howling in the moonlight. Or these stone dogs, if you will, and then the personified moon in the back. I like that one. And then, of course, you can't have the moon without the sun. You have the character there in the middle, almost praising the sun with the horses on either side. And then Judgment. There's Judgment at the top being cast over these souls there that are kind of being crucified there at the bottom. And last but not least is the card that represents culmination and completeness, the World. Really just a beautiful card there. Love that one. Love the shape of this one. This one, the almost symmetrical feel to it and the flow. It's a really cool card. So that is the major arcana, but now we still have the minor arcana. Now these are going to bear a lot more resemblance to a deck that you're used to a classic poker deck, if you will. They do have 56 cards instead of 52, so I'll talk a little bit about that. There's an extra court in each one, but they all do start out with an ace of spades and then go through the number cards. Now these cards are meant to be a blend between the classic French and Latin pips that you would see on a deck. The French pips are the ones that we're all familiar with: spades, clubs, diamonds, hearts. And then you have the Latin equivalents that are represented on each one. So as you look at the ace of spades here, you have this sort of cryptic image in the center with the hand signal. And then you have the large black spade pip at the top. That's the classic French pip. But at the bottom, you have its partner, the Latin version, in gold. This is the sword. So whereas there's the spades in French, in Latin they would be called the Ace of Swords. Name of the card depicted right there at the bottom again. And so there's your first one. And then as you go through the rest of the number cards, they bring in both pips still as well. So you have the two large spade pips just like before, but then you have these sort of abstract gold thin lines, gold foil. They really glimmer and shine, and they give kind of an abstract depiction of a sword. So you can kind of see the hilt of the sword up here as they curl down. So you have two of them here. Then as you go to the three, in addition to the extra spade pip, you also get an extra sword pip. I'll use that loosely. So you have 1, 2, and then 3 down the center. And then they're kind of artfully twisted in as you go through each of the number cards. I love how thoughtfully that alignment of the Latin pips was done. Really just a great touch to it overall. So you'll see over here, we're getting much more. You have 3 going this way, 3 going this way, and then another down the center to give you the 7. You do get a semblance of an index, if you can call it that, here on the side. So you can see in Roman numerals, there's 8. And then extra little embellishments in gold foil, just adding interest as you go through. But no classic corner pips and indices that you might be used to. And then you get to the court cards for the spades. Now, these have 4 court cards for each suit instead of the classic 3. It adds in the knight cards. You have the Jack, Queen, King, but then you also have the knight. Now, the Jack, Queen, and King are going to be pull forwards. This is the same artwork that was featured in the House of the Rising Spades deck. So if you've seen that deck, you may be familiar with some of the artwork on these. The knights have been drawn to be obviously continuing with the same style, but are all new to this deck. And so as you look through each one, you'll see lots of beautiful, intricate artwork, very mysterious with extra symbols. You know, you have this one, you have the snake wrapped around Jack's shoulders there. The Jack of Spades is actually the Keymaster himself, by the way. And then extra little gold cryptic symbols that are applied on top just to add to that mystery. So there's the Jack of Spades. Here's the all-new Knight of Spades riding on a horse. That's a cool one. Here's the Queen of Spades with a scepter in her hand. Very serene look to her face there. And the King of Spades, one of the cooler ones on this one. Love the pose of this one. And that weapon in his hand in white just really pops out with the white weapon in his hand. All right, now turning to the diamonds. So diamonds are the French version of the pip. And then you have coins for the Latin version. So you have the coin in gold there at the bottom. And as you go through each of these, this time you get a little bit of an abstract depiction of a coin there with the arches going on each side. And of course, artfully done on every card. I love those Latin pips on these. Just such a great and well executed detail. Fantastically done. So there are your diamonds. And then you get into the diamond court cards. So there's the Jack of Diamonds with kind of a wolf there behind him. There's the knight. All the knights are going to be mounted on horses. That's how you can tell them apart. The Queen of Diamonds there. A lot more red on these diamond cards, very fitting. And the King of Diamonds with the sword slung over his shoulder. I love when he does these little extra pops that are done in white. That negative space just really draws your eye and creates a lot of interest to me. All right, into the clubs, which in Latin are going to be the batons or the sticks. So there's a baton depicted down there in gold. And just like before, both the French and the Latin melded together beautifully and artistically as we go through all of these. Just such a thoughtful look. Really like these. All right, there's the 10. And then into the court cards. Really want to give appreciation to each one of these cards because they deserve it. Here's the Jack of Clubs, cat in hand. There's the Knight of Clubs. I said they were all mounted. This one's actually not mounted. But there's the Knight of Clubs. The Queen of Clubs right there. And the King of Clubs with a really gnarly looking curved sword at his belt there. All right, and then we go into the hearts. So the hearts are the French. The Latin is the cups. So there's a cup in gold at the bottom. And then as you go through the number cards, this is a cool touch. On the 2 of hearts, you have, I believe this is a manticore with the head of a lion, wings of an eagle, and then a tail of a serpent. So a manticore depicted. That's actually another pull forward from the House of the Rising Spades deck. So you'll see that same character on the front of the tuck case of the House of the Rising Spade. So a nice little addition there. So there is the 2 of hearts. And as you go through, that little bottom panel is removed as we go through the rest of the hearts. But you can see nice twisted artistic depiction of the cups in the background as well. Just can't get enough of these cards. So like I said, I'm going slowly through them, giving you a chance to see all of them because I think it deserves it. All right, and then our last of our 4 courts, you have the Jack of Hearts with the Raven in front of him. There's the Knight of Hearts riding that beautiful white stallion. That's a really great card. The Queen of Hearts with that billowing dress. And the King of Hearts. This one is an absolute classic design. I love that golden helmet and then the great sword just peeking out from under the robe. So there's the King of Hearts. And then finally, you close with a couple of extra cards. You get a double backer just to appreciate that back design a little bit more. And the Keymaster Tarot ad card here, done in gold foil against that black. So that is it. That is the deck. Now, I could talk a little bit about handling. I'm not going to talk too much about it. These cards are printed by Cartamundi, and they are on their same stock that you've seen before, but the finish is completely different. Whereas most people are used to their true linen finish, this is done on a smooth, it's called their soft touch finish. So very different feel to them. They don't slide like your normal cards, so they're not going to be a deck that you're going to want to use for anything that's really handling intensive. But they shuffle reasonably well. You know, you can still use this deck functionally for tarot if you want to. Nice thin stock, good feel to it, and feels nice and sturdy to me. But that said, let's get into the uses. Now, it's a tarot deck, so we're going to assume that cardistry is out. Tarot decks can be used for gameplay. There are games that are featured specifically for tarot decks. And you could obviously use these for tarot readings. I think this would provide for a really upscale tarot reading. But I think more than anything, this is going to be an art and collector's deck. I mean, look, it comes with a high price tag. The retail price on this particular one, the ultimate version, is up over $100. On resale, they're going for a lot more than that. So they're not going to be a deck that you're going to break out and use super heavily. It's going to be an art and collector's deck above all other things. I think people should open them up, really appreciate some of that artwork inside. I think it deserves it, but wouldn't blame you if you leave this one just sealed and enjoy that impressive box just looking all, just badass up on a shelf. So that is it. That is a look at Keymaster Tarot. Hope you enjoyed this Free the Pip Friday, chance to see a really rare deck in person. I'll be back next week with another one. Next week, we're going to be looking at the Gold Monolith deck. Another equally impressive deck in its own right. One of my favorites in my collection, and excited to show it to you guys. So anyway, that's it for now. That is the Keymaster Tarot deck from Stockholm17. Amazing job on this one. Cannot say enough about it. And if you get a chance to pick one of these up for yourself, can't recommend it highly enough. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews and unboxings and to be notified when my next video is out. And for now, I'll see you for the next one.